Hello everyone, welcome back to my review thing. I decided to call it the Dixon Library based off of this Instagram account that I have. I'll leave that in the description there, but glad you can join us. Once again, episode 2, submission by Michel Houellebecq, or Submission. Jesus Christ. Shouts out to The Word bookstore in Montreal. I hope they're doing well these days. I hope they're still in business. Man, look at that. Just look at that design. Isn't it fantastic? And we got a little bird design there. The bird is the word. L'aimant. That's what it means. That's what it means. Fantastic. Bookmarks. Bookmark designs make life worth living. This is one of the small things that we gotta look out for because it's fantastic. Anyways, let's jump into it. Submission by Michel Houellebecq. I know culturally I'm very late to this. This book came out in 2015. Michel Houellebecq recently published a new book in November of 2019 that I've yet to read. However, this is the first book I've read by him, and I just wanted to become familiar with his work before I dive into the abyss with his stuff, because that's certainly what it is when you're reading Michel Houellebecq. This book is maddening, but it's also dangerously good. I say that in the best way possible. It is dangerously good. Dangerously as in this book is very dangerous. So this book takes place in France in the year 2022, and we're following a anti-hero named Francois, who is a literature professor, perverted misogynist, and a ignorant political bastard. Or not political, but ignorant towards politics. Which is a crucial point I want to make throughout this novel. While all this is going on with Francois, it's election season in France. And the Islamic Party wins the election with the alliance of the Socialists and the UMP center-right party to defeat the far-right National Front Party. And so the Islamic Party wins, and France turns into a new Islamic state. Let's do a little analysis on Francois here. Francois is a professor of literature who wrote his dissertation on J.K. Huysmans, the French writer in the 19th century, whom I never heard of actually until I read this book. So in some sense, this book is an encyclopedia for literature students. His life, he's come to the point where his life is totally unfulfilled, where the only thing he can relate to things is his dissertation. He always comes back to his dissertation because that's the only thing that he's achieved during his lifetime. Other than that, all he does is he sleeps with his students, he eats frozen dinners, and he watches TV. In some sense, if I were to describe Francois, I would describe him as a cynical, nihilistic version of William Stoner. Francois is academia taken into parody. Because of his submission to Huysmans, the French writer, he is totally, utterly ignorant with what's going on in France. I could easily understand how someone might be attracted to the monastic life, even though I didn't see things the way Huysmans did, at all. I couldn't share the disgust he claimed to feel for the carnal passions. I couldn't even make sense of it. Generally speaking, my body was the seat of the various painful afflictions, headaches, rashes, toothaches, hemorrhoids, that followed one after another without interruption, and almost never left me in peace. And I was only 44. What would it be like when I was 50, 60, older? I'd be no more than a jumble of organs in slow decomposition. My life, an unending torment, grim, joyless, and mean. Submission, everyone. We can see that Francois basically hates his life. And he flees Paris during the riots that the far right inflict because of their anger of the Islamic Party winning. And he flees, and he makes this determination to follow the path of Huizma. And he tries to become a Catholic, but he just doesn't feel it until he is granted an offer he can't refuse by the Islamic Party, where inevitably he becomes Muslim and starts to teach in the university again, because you would have to be Muslim to teach under the state, at least according to this book. I really don't know the politics of it, but for me, this book is a lot of things. When I first picked it up, I think it was on page 8, only the second chapter. The academic study of literature leads basically nowhere. As we all know, unless you happen to be a specially gifted student, in which case it prepares you for a career teaching the academic study of literature. Basically, when I read this, I was like, okay, this is just a comedy on the profession of literature, which, I don't know, I take very personally because I'm studying this stuff. But it is so much more than that. Every time when I put this book down, like I needed to do something around the house, get some work done, whatever, I could not stop thinking about this novel. It never left my mind. It is almost as if Francois' obsession with Huizma reflected on my mind of my obsession with the novel. And I am by no means a Michel Houellebecq scholar, but I don't know, it's something about this whole theme of submitting yourself, because later on in the novel, when Francois does become Muslim, it's almost as if he's submitting himself to God. This book, although political, is a portrait of a struggling man trying to find some substance in life, trying to find some sort of meaning that will keep on going. And when he does, it's beautiful. He starts writing again, he starts teaching again, and he feels what he hasn't been feeling in however long since he started his dissertation. I think it was like when in his 20s when he started writing about Huizma, which he produced like an 800-page dissertation on Huizma. As I said, dangerously good. Dangerous in the sense that it is highly controversial when talking about the themes of the Islamic Party. However, I don't think this book is intended for hatred in any way. It's just a dark comedy of a man. I was incapable of living for myself, and who else did I have to live for? Humanity didn't interest me. It disgusted me, actually. I didn't think of human beings as my brothers, especially not when I looked at some particular subset of human beings, such as the French or my former colleagues. And yet, in an unpleasant way, I couldn't help seeing that these human beings were just like me. And it was the very resemblance that made me avoid them. Francois is so absorbed in his own self-interest that he becomes ignorant to the idea of politics. So much so that he even mentioned it himself that I know nothing about politics except for election season, which I think is pretty decent representation of people today. Like, you don't really follow politics until it's time to follow politics. It just shows like an example of ignorance, I guess. It's a handbook to everything, basically. It even teaches you how to write here. By the time he wrote the Untimely Meditations, Nietzsche had calmed down. He realized that you can't overwhelm the reader with too many concepts at once, that you have to structure your argument and give him time to breathe. The same thing happened to you in The Vertigos of Coining, which made it a more accessible book. The difference between you and Nietzsche is that Nietzsche kept going. And then Francois says, I'm not Nietzsche. This was a conversation between the president of the university when the Islamic State won, trying to convince Francois to come back and teach. This book takes an evolution from cynicism and nihilism to a portrait of a man trying to grasp for a transcendental being. Man. That's all I gotta say. You just gotta read this. You just gotta read this book. And to think it's contemporary too. Like, I thought I lost all faith in contemporary literature. Because it's mostly just genre fiction that just keeps on pumping out. Like, it's not like some kind of elitist thing, but I don't know. This here, this is a work of art. This is a literary masterpiece, I'd say. Not a nice one. Not everyone's gonna like this, that's for sure. But an essential, a contemporary essential, I'd say so. I'm looking forward to reading his new novel, Serotonin. However, I've heard that that book is even a little bit more more off the wall, which I don't know. I might not enjoy that one, but this one, quite nice, quite nice. Anyways, yeah, thanks for watching. Next week, I have no idea what I'm gonna review. We'll just see how it goes. Hopefully, I'm trying to experiment with backgrounds here. Last week I just wanted to display my bookshelf, but this week or next week will be different too. All right, ciao.